Yesterday we introduced you to the work of Professor Carol Dweck on fixed and growth mindset, and I left you with the question, which would be the mindset of a hero. And I expect, probably having listened to the amazing speakers yesterday and today so far, you'd recognise that probably it's virtually impossible to act heroically without a growth mindset. Yes, there's lots of things that make a hero, but a growth mindset for sure is one of them. Now, Jeremy and I have thought about, well, what do you do about it? It's great knowing about it, but how do you actually implement growth mindset? What would it look like if you walked into an environment that had, a culture of growth mindset? So we've put together sort of a framework of 10 things which we suggest to people: have a go at these. Be creative. Once you understand it, try and implement these things in any way that you think is possible in your environment. We've put together a growth mindset coaching kit, which is in draft at the moment, and it's sort of a tool for educators. It's based around sport, but it can be translated into any context, really, and also an intervention for learners. So these are the 10 things which we're going to do a sort of speed dating approach to going through in the next 10 minutes.
Okay. So first off, am I on? Yep. First off is to talk to people about what growth mindset is and give them a bit of the understanding of the science behind it. So the way that we've done that is we brought over Matthew Syed, who was a former Commonwealth table tennis champion. He writes for the Times and the BBC, and he came and worked at our conference, and now our local journalist picked up on it and did a great news story. We've also done workshops with parents and athletes, with teachers, the parents' evenings through the schools, which you can see a picture of on the screen. Again, helping them understand what growth mindset is. And then in the schools have started to get the message about the mindsets out there, putting displays up, using the language, and talking to the children about the different sets of beliefs.
Okay, and the second thing, I put these statements up yesterday, the ones Carol Dweck would use to help people identify what they might believe about abilities, intelligence. Can they change, or are they fixed? Self-awareness is key. Okay, and we spend quite a lot of time in our workshops helping people identify where they might hold a growth mindset and where they might hold fixed mindsets, because we are all a mixture of both. It's not about slapping a label on and saying, oh, they've got a growth mindset, they've got a fixed mindset. It's about embracing our fixed mindset in a way and saying, okay, I recognise I got quite defensive there when someone gave me some feedback, maybe I'm a little bit fixed, what can I do about it? And once you're aware, you can then start thinking about changing if you want to.
Okay. Tim did an exercise with some balloons yesterday, and I know Dan's going to be doing some parkour later. Did anyone hear themselves or hear someone else say, I can't do it? Yeah? Okay. So we're going to give you a really important word that you can talk back to yourself or challenge other people with when you hear these words. Okay? And it's yet. Okay? Carol Dweck is doing research on it at the moment, but the word yet is massively important. So if you hear someone this afternoon say, I can't do it, you're all going to say, fantastic. Okay, so really important one.
Okay, role models and learning journeys. Role models are so important, and there have been some fantastic people standing on stage these last couple of days who can be role models. And young people especially look to other people to see, well, how have they done something? I want to be like them, I want to be a hero like them, or whatever it is. Schools have been really creative. This head teacher created Bob and Lola. Now, Bob used to say, I won't, and Lola would say, I can't. But he created a story, and Bob and Lola changed to saying, I will and I can. And the students in that primary school, Bob and Lola were their best friends. They talked about Bob and Lola. They used them as role models to challenge their own thinking. Absolutely fantastic. And then for very young children, so it's about how can we foster a growth mindset from a very young age, get them to have that belief that they can do things. Okay? Schools have been using little cuddly toys, and about 8 characters which demonstrate the behaviours that will come from a growth mindset. So this is Dima Duck, who never gives up. She's determined. And there's a little story about Dima Duck. There's a story about Cuba the caterpillar, who concentrates. There's a story about Hamid the hedgehog, who has a go and goes home, and kids have a go at eating their broccoli, and parents are like, oh, what's this all about? So it brings it to life, it makes it real, and these children at a very young age are learning what these behaviours are, and that it makes a difference in their learning, and they'll have the characters on their desk while they're doing their learning. For older children, it's about making it age appropriate. We've heard lots about superheroes, Superman, Harry Potter, Star Wars, over these last couple of days. This is a secondary school for boys. They've used Star Wars as role models for thinking about growth mindset. Here are two guys in our community who 18 months ago didn't really do much sport, didn't consider themselves as runners, but thought, what can we do to challenge ourselves? They started running. Last summer, they ran 7 marathons in 7 days to raise money for charity. 3 weeks ago, they were on treadmills in our market square for 48 hours non-stop, again to raise money. So, again, real people, real heroes, but great role models.
Okay. One of Carol Dweck's main research areas around interventions has been around teaching people about the brain, how it's malleable, how it can change in response to challenge, struggle, and helping people understand that their brains aren't fixed, so really why should they be, is a massive, massive thing that people can do to help shift people from being in a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. Okay, the learning line, and we incorporate risk and challenge into this. If you're on the left-hand side, you don't know that you don't know something. Someone suddenly says to you, we're going to learn about, I don't know, something. You're like, whoa, that sounds a bit scary. You need to get to the other side, that right-hand dot. You don't go straight up. You're going to go down in that dip or in that pit, and that's where it's going to feel frustrating. It's going to be struggle, there's going to be mistakes, it's not going to feel very nice. But we try and help children and learners, any learners, understand when you're learning to drive, for example, or kids learning to ride a bike, that it can feel a bit like this. And when you're down in that dip, if someone came along and rescued you, you might well take that chance of getting out of the situation. But we know that's not how learning happens, that's not how you get successful. It's helping people understand that risk and challenge is part of that as well. Okay. Oh, this is school actually. They decided just to paint one of their walls with the learning pit in it, and they've got children to write their own little self-referenced comments about what it's like being in the pit. Here's one who's talking about his skateboarding skills, I think. I kept trying and now I can do it really well. Okay. This is another quote that you'll hear and see around schools in Guernsey, an acronym for FAIL, First Attempt in Learning, or Further Attempt in Learning. Again, helping people normalize failure and making mistakes is a massive part of developing a growth mindset culture. If you put failure quotes into Google, you'll come up with thousands. This is one that we use, again, particularly relevant for sports. But Michael Jordan, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. So there are so many examples of famous failures that are out there, and it's just normalizing failure and making mistakes. This is another great one that we've got up in classrooms. Errors are welcome in this classroom. We all learn from mistakes. And it's really important for us as teachers, as parents, as coaches, as citizens, to actually not just kind of talk to children about saying mistakes are okay and accept them to behave like that. We actually have to do that as well. We have to share our mistakes, share our failures, share our journey, and demonstrate visibly learning from mistakes in front of our young people. Okay. We talk about the conscious and unconscious mind. And one way we talk about this is, how can we get the environment to be communicating the message of growth mindset? Growth mindset can exist without the words growth mindset. Okay? One school has come up with this idea of having a school song. They've taken Grow the Roses of Success from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I'm not going to sing it, not because I can't yet, but because actually once it's in your head, you just cannot get it out, and it's really annoying. But how brilliant. Children are going to be thinking about Alexander Graham knew failure well. He took a lot of knocks to ring that bell. When it gets distressing, it's a blessing. Onward and up, you must press. But what they're also going to do is paint roses in various parts around the school. So the rose will be a trigger for children, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line. This will come to their mind whenever they see a rose. Okay? Putting posters up like the failure quotes, things around the environment which communicate that message of a growth mindset. Okay. Rachel described the experiment yesterday about how influential a single line of praise delivered can be in terms of how anybody approaches a certain task. However, it's not just verbal feedback that people respond to. We communicate what we value in lots of different ways. One of the things we see typically in schools is stickers, and we're kind of conscious that a lot of kids have become sticker junkies. You know, they can't get through the day almost without one. And the stickers that we've seen originally were things like, you're great, you're a star, you're brilliant, okay? Quite fixed mindset messages. So we can still keep the sticker, but we can create growth mindset messages through stickers. So these are some developed by Professor Barry Heimer. It's things like, I took a risk, I made a link, I ask great questions. I challenge my teacher. Okay, some really good messages. So again, shifting what we reward onto the behaviours rather than just outcomes of great pieces of work. This is something else we've tried to introduce, which is dirt time. Okay, so again, it's not just saying to someone who submits a piece of work or does a task in any sort of environment or context that that's great. Okay, we say, rather than say that's great or that's bad, make a judgment, we say that's a good start. Okay, now let's see what we can do to improve it. And we get feedback and we provide them with feedback, and then they have time set aside to do the piece of work again and then try and improve it. We did this with the learning line, so the learning line that Rachel showed you earlier. We give them the opportunity to develop their own learning line that sits on their desk. It's a wonderful tool for communicating where they are with any level of challenge or any task. And then we give them time to improve it. We actually had, in this case, a competition to see not who produced the best piece of work, but who could improve their piece of work the most. Okay?
And finally, we talk about process being primary. Not that outcomes aren't important, we recognise they are, but it's where we put our focus. And the focus is on the process of learning, the process of development, the process of growing, to instill the belief that you can get better. Okay? So focusing on strategies, effort, ways in which you've overcome a challenge, for example. This is one teacher who changed the way that she sort of rewarded or acknowledged children's efforts in their times tables test. So instead of it being who'd got the highest score, it was who'd improved the most. So what she found was that children were going home, spending more time learning their times tables, enjoying it more, looking forward to it, not cheating, okay, because it was about a self-referenced goal. It was about how can I get better rather than how can I be better than someone else in the class. And she's seen their attainment actually improve more rapidly than it would have done otherwise. Okay.
So those are the 10 steps, a bit of a machine gun effort at kind of giving you some ideas around what has actually been done using them. But this is some of the feedback. We haven't put it up, but one of the things that we've noticed through the surveys we've done with the teachers is 100% of the teachers that we've worked with have identified that they've changed at least one fundamental part of their teaching practice as a result of understanding growth mindset and the interventions. These are the impacts we've seen on learners. You can read them for yourselves, okay? But also openness to feedback and greater expectations of themselves and others, okay? Which for us in Guernsey we thought was really important because we do see not necessarily the levels of deprivation that you might see in some inner city areas. We definitely see deprivation of aspiration as much as anything else as well. And then importantly as well, linked to mental health, reduced anxiety, and as Rachel said, less copying or cheating. Okay.
And finally, we recognise that changing behaviours, changing attitudes, changing beliefs isn't easy. Okay, it's okay not to be easy, we know it's not. But it can be done. It takes time. Okay, we've got this little poem, which we really love.
Chapter 1. I walk down the street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out.
Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes a long time to get out.
Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it, it's still there. I fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately.
Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There is a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it.
Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. Thank you.